I'm looking at number 9. The directions say graph the image of the figure using the transformation given. The transformation is a rotation of 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. So remember, with a rotation, we have to know how much we're rotating, which is the number of degrees, which direction, which in this case is counterclockwise, this direction, and we're going around which point, the origin. Remember, that's where the x and y axis intersect at the point 0, 0. So, knowing the rules from worksheet 8 is very, very helpful in this case. So you need to know the rules on worksheet 8. So all the rules take general point x, y and show what you do with that x and y coordinate to get your new points, your image points. So I always remember my 90-degree clockwise and counterclockwise rotations by drawing arrows that either go in the counterclockwise or clockwise direction. I know that my x and y have to switch places, and I know that one of them will change signs. So to remember which one to change signs, I draw my arrow either clockwise or counterclockwise. And so this way, when I'm going clockwise, this is telling me as the x is moving spots, it's the one that's changing signs. That's going clockwise. To go counterclockwise, the y is the one that as it's moving is changing signs. So this is the rule we're using. We're taking the point x, y. The y is the one that's switching and changing signs at the same time. So this will map to opposite y, x. They switched places, and the y was the one that changed signs. So that's what I'm going to do to all my points, b, x, and n, in order to get my new points, b prime, x prime, and n prime. So b has a coordinate, has coordinates of -4, 1. Make sure that you're really careful coming up with those coordinates. Left 4, up 1 is -4, 1. So it's going to map to b prime using this rule. I want the opposite of my y. The opposite of 1 is -1. And then I want my x coordinate, which is -4. So I'm going to graph that point. -1, left 1, -4, down 4. So this is where b prime will be mapped. So make sure you put your image points using prime notation when you label them. Let's look at point x. Point x has coordinates of -3, -2, left 3, down 2. So it's going to map to x prime using this rule. I want the opposite of my y. The opposite of -2 is +2. And then I want my x coordinate, which is -3. So I can plot that point. 2 means go right 2. -3 means go down 3. And this is going to be labeled as x prime. Next, let's look at point n. Point n has coordinates of -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, 2, 3, 4, -5, -4, left 5, down 4. So it will map to point n prime using this rule. The opposite of my y, the opposite of -4 is +4, and then my x coordinate of -5. So I'll plot that point. +4, -5 puts point n prime right there. So the last step is simply to connect those points to draw my rotated triangle. So this is 90 degrees counterclockwise. The point x was in the 3rd quadrant, it ended in the 4th quadrant. B was in the 2nd quadrant, it ended in the 3rd quadrant. N was in the 3rd quadrant, it ended in the 4th quadrant. Remember, you can check this 90-degree rotation. Any original point, the point you're rotating around, and its image point should make a 90-degree angle. So this is a 90-degree angle between x, the origin, and x prime. And you could look the same between b, the origin, and b prime, n, the origin, and n prime. And you'll get that 90-degree angle.